My kid's 21, vegan, the whole life. All I had,
Mate.
oh, your child will die. They will get very ill. And then within a couple of years, why does your child never get a cold? Why is your child never sick? Why is your child this? Why is your child that? And
Yeah,
then, when I bump into them now, they go, God, well, can you believe it? This vegan thing now has gone huge. And I said, it's not this vegan thing. It's literally the thing that needs to help people's health, the animals and the planet. The other thing I wanted to say is this Ozempic nightmare disaster is horrific. The large majority of people that are amputees are from diabetes. So I've studied
right,
diabetes for literally 30 years. If you have severe diabetic problems, or you're so morbidly obese, but nobody should touch Ozempic if they're not connected ever. If you have severe diabetic problems, or you're so morbidly obese that they
right.
need to get you started on it. But nobody should touch Ozempic if they're not connected ever to diabetes, because it's playing with the pancreas, it's playing with the adrenal glands. And I was like, oh my God. I said, forget vegan, it's against your religion. You've got pig in your makeup, which is against your religion. They were like, what? Oh my God, we didn't know we had pigs. Actually, I was a millionaire by the time I was 19, got married, made a load of money together, got divorced, gave all that away because I fund hundreds of charities and landmine clearing. And my business is run so that we can keep helping these people and doing these things.
Hi there, and welcome to Plant CEO Special. I'm here today with Heather Mills, the entrepreneur, investor, and owner of VBites. Hey Heather, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good to see you.
And you.
Thanks for joining today, and we're going to do this session. So if you have any questions via the Beyond Animal platform, and thank you for them for organizing this, do write it in the comments. But we're going to start with the first question. So Heather, you've been an activist, an athlete, and an entrepreneur. What's the common mission, do you think, that connects all these roles today?
Challenging people's perceptions of misinformation, challenging people's perception of disability. Oh, you've got one leg, you can't do that. Oh, you're disabled, you can't do that. Oh, you're vegan, you don't get enough protein. Oh, that's not going to be successful because no one's interested in vegan. I'd say I was a problem solver, trying my best to do things the right way to help the animals, the planet, and the environment, like so many others, but not enough people yet. And I'd say the connection was solutions. So I didn't become a ski racer at the age of 47 for no reason. It was to show, you can become a world record holder late in life when you have a clean, healthy diet like veganism. So that showed people that the protein thing was a myth, that people eat too much protein, and it's actually what's making a
Mm,
lot of people sick. So yeah, I just wanted to challenge people's perceptions, but there's no point complaining about something if you haven't got a solution. So that's why I thought, well, I better set up a food company that gives them all their fast food addiction, get them off their burgers and everything, and wean them over to their sort of vegan burgers, which would be the methadone to the heroin. I know it sounds extreme, but that's basically what it is. And then once they've, you know, got into realizing they can give those up and changing the metabolism and the taste buds. Sorry about my voice today. I've been doing a lot of talking. Um, then they get on to stage two. My partner, fast food addict 7 years ago, now can't believe they love tofu. When we were kids, full fat milk, went to semi-skim milk. People are moving on to plant milks, can't believe they ever had dairy milk, didn't know what it was like to not live in the morning with inflammation and blowing their nose. And so it's just hand holding, but giving them the solutions at the same time as people go through the way, try and make them cost effective. And in the meantime, doing it for the bigger picture, which is the animals, the planet, and people's health.
it's quite amazing that you've been vegan since 1993. That's
Yeah, when I lost my leg.
yeah, 32 years.
Yeah, don't remind
How
me.
how was it back then? And it must have been a very different world where trying to find sort of the alternatives, obviously, in terms of food and your diet, but I would imagine most of your diet was soya protein, those chunks that you used to
Yeah,
get,
it
but
was
also
rehydrated chunks
hydrate.
that,
That was it.
yeah, you used to get from the health food stores. and then just soak them and get
Yeah,
creative. But and I was just massive on vegetables. I mean, I was a raw
nice.
vegan for the first 2 years because I went vegan for health. I didn't know anything about the cruelty to animals. I was, as naive as everyone else, just picking something up off a supermarket shelf in Geordie land up north was all sausage and mash.
Yeah.
So it was only health reasons when I lost my leg that veganism healed me, that I was raw vegan for 2 years. But then real life is there and you go out and you socialize, and I wanted to have a burger and a pizza and occasionally, so that's why I created the alternatives.
Yeah, and when you lost your leg, would you say that you had a lot of the plant mainly to reduce things like inflammation? Was that one of the
Oh yeah,
key
I mean,
things, or
100%. I was in hospital for 5 months, crushed pelvis, punctured lung, split my head open, and I'd say
wow?
the crushed pelvis was the worst bit, worse than losing the leg. But my leg was infected, so they kept chopping it off more and more and more. And I didn't want to lose my knee, so my girlfriend ran in and was like, "You got to go vegan." And I was just like, "What on earth is vegan?" So she took me off to a place called Hippocrates in West Palm Beach in Florida. That was very small at the time. It's very big now. Um, and they shoved all this at the time, what I thought was disgusting, with a Geordie appetite, wheatgrass juice and garlic poultices, and they put them on my wound, and my wound healed within
Oh,
7 days.
wow.
And for
Oh,
five
wow.
months, it had never healed. So, of course, I started to become a believer. So I pushed it more and more. And then I was completely healed. I hadn't gone to the loo for 4 months. My colon was backed up. I was in an absolute mess between the pelvis and the hospital food. So I started writing books about it for charity because I'd been working in the war in the former Yugoslavia before then. So we were always trying to raise funds to clear landmines. And yeah, and it went from there. And just every time I'd see something and think, oh, I really fancy a hot dog, but there wasn't a vegan hot dog. So then we'd create a vegan hot dog. Or, I'd want some caviar. So then we'd create some vegan caviar or a vegan egg. And this is back in the 90s. And we had 84 products in Holland and Barrett for 27 years. And Holland and Barrett was the main place that everybody
Mm,
bought VBites. And before VBites, we were Redwood. But when we wanted to go international, we thought VBites was a better name because when you Google came in, you put in
mm.
Redwood and it was all about trees and computers. So that's why we changed the name.
Yeah, yeah. And it's astonishing that I guess we live in today's world, especially say in the UK or the US, where you go into a pharmacy and it's all about the Western medicine as such, and you don't get herbal remedies of what we're used to and been around for thousands of years, which is coming from plants. And the Eastern world knows so much more about this, and it's also predicted to grow so much over the next few years.
My mum was a homeopath and acupuncturist and a psychologist. So she used to treat all of the ladies that had mastectomies with homeopathy and herbs
Right.
and acupuncture. So we were brought up on it our whole life, and they all thought she was crazy because it was 40 odd years ago. We weren't vegan, but she was very much into this Eastern medicine. And again, it's all about money. It's like everything. The meat and dairy industry had a problem initially with vegan products, so we replicated their brands identically, such as Applewood smoky cheese and Domino's vegan pizza, and we were doing all that for years. And then they stole the idea and the IP, and then took it to Europe. So this happens a lot. They basically, it's a bit like the supermarkets as well. They utilize you as a family business, you pay, they drive the traffic, then they go, oh, okay, we'll just go and make it ourselves. And then they make a terrible version of it. And then people wanting to go vegan try it, think it's like cardboard because people who are not vegan think we eat cardboard. And and then it just goes round and round and round in circles. So what I'm doing now is licensing my IP around the world so that people can get access to really great high quality meat, fish, and dairy alternates, as well as all the other products we do.
So let's go back then in the early days when you started Redwood, that became VBites. The initial reason that you created was really to try and feed yourself, I guess.
Yes. And then I also had a kid who's now 21, and you try taking a kid to a party and they go, Mom, I want to eat the chicken nuggets. Mom, I want to eat this. So that's how they ended up being 360 products, 360 SKUs, which we still have, but we just switch it on and off when it's required for volume. So like we do country bakes for the schools, which are with lots of vegetables and things. And yeah, just basically created whatever was possible. Back then, soy, obviously being subsidized for farmers, was £2 a kilo, and pea protein was £6 a kilo. So when we did the first pea protein burger in 1997, it was just too expensive. Nobody would
Mm.
pay for it.
How
But
much
it's a
is it
bit
now,
like
by the
mobile
way?
phones. They're not far off each other. It's still expensive, but it's not far off each other. It's not subsidized like soy, but it's
No.
not far off each other. But we get our soy from Austria, so that's more expensive than from China. So, and the ingredients market's gone absolutely nuts. Everyone knows the cost of living is going through the roof. And now you've got all these droughts and then extreme heat because everyone's in denial of global warming. So the farmers are really struggling because they can't, get enough yield out of their crops. So then
Mm.
they get less money for it and they don't make money anyway. And then the end consumer has to pay for it. And the only people that make the profit and do well are the supermarkets.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Um,
yeah.
One thing with the supermarkets is, as a new entrant, it can be quite disheartening if your product is delisted from the supermarkets. In the terms of like cost of living, they definitely find the scale, don't they, and cut down the costs, which the family-run brands just can't compete at that level.
Because the supermarkets are adding on much bigger margins. So they could order that volume from the family business because all they're doing is using like a Samwiths or a Bakkavor once they try and work out the recipe and then lower the
Mm,
quality to pump those things out. So there are a lot of brands obviously still in the supermarket, but they get pushed to sort of bring the margins down and then the quality goes down and then people get put off being vegan. And when you actually, I've analyzed loads of my friends up north who, have gone
mm,
through financial struggles and where they spend their money. And everybody says, oh, well, being vegan's too expensive. It's absolutely not. If I take away that 6 pack of beer and your 40 cigarettes and you're betting down at the dogs thing and so on and so on, it's just the denials for a lot of people. And then where there is a cost of living crisis is generally in the people that are blooming working. The incentive is to stay on benefits because they know if they go to work, they're going to end up with zero at the end of the month anyway. So we've really got to sort that out and incentivize and reward workers and literally make a situation for benefit seekers that really are not genuine, not the ones that are with disabilities and all sorts of other issues, mental issues and but it's managing that and working it out. So we give away, I don't know, 100, 200 meals a month. And I think in a couple of weeks we're giving away, I think 27,000 because things have got that bad. Um,
mm.
but the people that come are the people that have jobs. That's what's
Yeah,
unbelievable. They're the ones that are really struggling. They're the ones that are doing a job in the day, a job at night. So we try and create products that they can afford. I've just done a little series for the team on social media to show a family of four can eat for under £10 at a time. High quality, fully nutritious, good vegan food because of the alternative stores, which is an online store I recently bought to help those families.
yeah. We're going to take a few questions here that have come in. Do you have a favorite vegan product that you've created? And that's from Beth.
That's funny because this is what I was going to show
Oh,
later.
okay.
This is my most exciting product that launches a vegan camp out. It's called No Bloat. So the reason this came about was because I had Lyme's disease. Didn't know I had it. Was misdiagnosed 22 odd years ago when I went to Cambodia and took the Duchess of Kent on a fact-finding mission to help kids that were going into rubbish tips and pulling out aluminium cans because there was value for that for their family. And I thought I was bitten by a dengue fly, and they thought I was. But 20 odd years later, it was diagnosed as Lyme's disease. And Lyme's disease sits in the cell, but the UK tests the blood until recently and not the urine. And to get to know where Lyme's disease, and if you've got it, you have to test the urine. So I was misdiagnosed, and then my appendix burst, and they took my gallbladder out, and I couldn't eat solid food for 3 years. And I was ski racing at the time, so that was really difficult. And I decided to analyze the colon and the microbiome
Mm.
and really get into detail, and found out it was garlic and onion. And if I reduced and eliminated to start with my FODMAPs, then I could do that. But everywhere I went had garlic and onion in it, in every sandwich, in every salad, in every dressing, in every restaurant. And I thought, is there anything in the supermarket I can buy that doesn't have garlic or onion in? And I couldn't
Mm.
find anything. So that's why I made no bloat, which basically is freeze dried, real food, quinoa, kale, carrot, gorgeous seasoning flavors. We do sagaloo, Mexican rice, quinoa, lentil vegetables, rice noodles, mushroom edamame. And I thought I'll make a range of food that can go to schools, to hospitals, to get people out of hospital quicker, not feed them steak and chips and ice cream and jelly like the current menu at the NHS is. And we wonder why we have a problem. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
God, common sense is unbelievable. So this is to problem solve for people like me that have an extreme intolerance to garlic and onion, mannitol, certain mushrooms, oyster mushrooms fine, button mushroom can create bloating, cauliflower is brilliant until it's not in a particular person. So this has low FODMAP for people that don't know what that is. They should Google it, and we'll be giving more information of that. But it completely healed me and stopped them taking half my colon out and giving me a stoma bag because it was that bad.
Mm.
So what needs to happen more, and when you talked about at the beginning, natural cures for ailments instead of pharmaceutical, we just keep putting pills out and plasters on things. We need to rip that plaster off and really work out what the issue is, and the individual needs help to just have access to quick food that they know is actually going to re-engage their serotonin to their brain, get rid of that diarrhea, constipation, that acid
Mm.
reflux. And
Mm.
and this is what this food does. So it's the first food that's been stamped on the Monash University, as well as the where are they? Yeah, the Harley Street Dysfunctional Gut Clinic. And also Dr. Michael Clapper is just like
Yeah.
blown away by it, because I kept explaining to him what happens in January when it's veganuary is people go from putrefied colons with horrific diets and go, I'm going to go vegan for a month. And their colon explodes with fiber and amazing nutrition, but it can't cope with it. So they feel bloated and uncomfortable. So they say, oh, I don't feel healthy as a vegan. And that's bad, because it means they stop being vegan and go back to all the meat products, which are not giving them a bloat, but giving them other diseases and ailments. So
Yeah.
I'm really
So with
excited
this,
about this. It's going to fix a lot of things.
this is your first product that's aimed at gut health.
Yeah.
And are you planning many more ranges?
So the first range is elimination. Once you've helped someone, because when you've never not been inflamed, you look around Britain, it's not about whether you're fat or not. It's about, are you inflamed? You can get a skinny person with a bloated stomach because they've got so much inflammation inside. So what happens is when you're used to being like that and you don't have pain, you're just bloated, you just accept it and think that's how it is, and you carry on eating the things that are irritating the heck out of your gut. It's very easy to fix, but it's very scientific. So I've made it very simple and explained it. So for a month, instead of veganuary, these products are naturally vegan, but we're not shouting about it being vegan because it's all about the
Mm.
gut health. And everyone at some point has a problem with their gut. 40% of the UK live off Gaviscon and PPIs and suffer from acid reflux. This fixes that. And it's a hell of a claim, but it does, as long as you stick to it. And then you reintroduce one of the six FODMAPs, mannitol, sorbitols, oligosaccharides. I won't get into too much science right now, but you you add one in over 6 weeks. Some of them have got two, and occasionally a vegetable's got three FODMAPs in, and that will change your life. And I say it because I was suffering for years and being misdiagnosed.
How would you say is the most, I guess, cost-effective way at recognizing what issue you actually have in the first place when it comes to your gut?
Uh, Elimination. So basically, just clean everything out, wipe out the FODMAPs. That's why this is so simple, because there's so much information on the internet. They'll say, oh, kombucha is good for your gut. Oh, kimchi is good for your gut. It is good for your gut unless you have FODMAP issues. Then kimchi can really irritate your gut and make it flare up. That's really confusing for the public. So I said, let's just make it easy. They could follow this for a month and then go, OMG, I am not bloated anymore. And then once a week, they add in one of the FODMAPs, and finally they go, okay, I'm a fructan intolerant, or I'm a mannitol intolerant, or I'm a lactose intolerant, or I'm a sorbitol intolerant. And they only have six, one of each category to really work it out. Most of them I've found are fructan. It's garlic and onion, or one or the other, and that is the hardest one. I'm unfortunately two. I'm mannitol and fructan, so I can't have garlic and onion. But asafoetida, which we
No,
also
yeah,
sell on the alternative stores,
yeah,
is amazing, and you'll know it in
yeah,
cooking.
yeah,
But most of the Brits don't know it, and it creates the same flavors as garlic and onion, but it's really healing on the digestive system. So you can still have those delicious flavors.
yeah, for sure. And I think also like the Jain community generally don't have
That's how I
like
eat when I go to India. Yeah. So
you just tell them that you're Jain.
you can explain who the Jain community are, because not everybody will know that.
Yeah, so effectively, they're part of a community in India where they don't have generally things that are grown under the ground. They're also very conscious about even breathing in things like if you're really strict, they'll wear masks, for example, so they're not breathing in insects. But it's part of Hinduism. Jainism is derived from there. We know a few people who are Jain as well, and yeah, they generally don't have things where if it's underneath the ground and the soil and other insects have been at those items, then they don't consume stuff like that.
Yeah, that's how I just order when I'm in India, because my garlic onion intolerance. I'm fine with potatoes and carrot and all sorts of things under the ground, but I order like that just to be 100% sure that there's no garlic and onion in, because I've had Delhi belly once and it wasn't on the street food, it was in a posh hotel. So it's always better to eat on the streets
Yeah. Yeah.
where the
Yeah, I
great
think
Jane cooks are.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I wonder if Janes, for example, have less gut issues then as a result, if that's could be one of those things that you've also experienced.
That would be a good data test. I am planning to do a lot of work with our new paneer cheese being licensed over in India. So that would be a really good test
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
do
we spoke
analysis on Jane's gut health.
yeah, it would be. Yeah, you spoke just before we got on the call. Yeah, you told me about that with the paneer, something that I have been missing in terms of that tofu alternative. Normally, is what I would use for the paneer dishes. Are you launching that in the UK, or have you already launched that paneer in the
Yeah,
UK on
we've
VBites?
made paneer for years, because 85% of our products are catering, schools, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. We've made it for years. We've just made an improved version recently that we're going to launch over in India. Because imagine 1.5 million Indians, and a lot of them are veggie already, and you
That's
just
right.
got to nudge them along to vegan paneer, vegan lassi, and vegan ghee, and then we're done. And then
Yeah.
global warming much
Yeah,
quicker than in the UK.
it's definitely something that I want a lot of Indian vegetarians to ditch the dairy to make it as a because
Yeah,
it's a huge opportunity, like you say, and I think enough isn't being done in that market.
it's huge for the environment and the animals and the humans. It's absolutely enormous. It's more than China now, so it has to be done. So that's the target. And I've been going to India since 1989. I worked with the Jaipur Limb Clinic, and I worked in the Gujarat earthquake disaster. So I know a lot of the dairy farmers, helping them set up, the housing and the hospitalization again. So they're really open, more than
Yeah.
most countries, to look into it, because they need um, to be able to have all sorts of options. So they're staying very open-minded.
Yeah. Okay. Gonna take a few more questions. From Denise. What's the first step of becoming a vegan?
The first step of becoming a vegan would be to find out what your addiction is. Like, are you a chocoholic or a cheeseaholic? Um, if you're vegetarian, they're the two things that stop you going vegan. And then you have to try every plant milk, because, I don't like oat milk. I like rice milk, which I make myself, because I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, and that has some naturally occurring sugars. My friends like oat milk. You can also have people that are intolerant to
Mm,
some oats. So, soy milk I used to like, I don't anymore. And also, if you've got gut irritants, make sure the soy milk is soy protein, not soybean, because too much soybean can also create inflammation. It's a bit like edamame, so good for you.
mm,
Unless you have a gut problem, then if you have more than, a third of a cup, you can start to get some issues. So we'll go more into detail on that, on the No Bloat site at the end of the month, because it'll take up the whole interview. But yeah,
yeah.
it's important to read the back. When you buy almond milk, for example, um, Plenish is a brilliant one, because it's just
Mm,
clean. And if it's not sweet enough for you, like the others, then just put a bit of maple syrup in, or a little bit of stevia. Don't get the ones with all the extras put in there, because you can get clean milk. And if you've got 2 minutes, which most people don't, just make it. It's so simple. Just Google, how do I make my own oat milk or rice milk or quinoa milk or hemp milk or any kind of milk you like, and you'll find a perfect one. And then the cheese, the VBites smoky cheese, is the original applewood cheese that they tried to nick and take to Europe and got 2,200 complaints. And we said it's not our cheese anymore. So if you want the original, it's the V-Bite smoky one. And we do cranberry, we do apricot, and that tends to get the cheeseaholics
nice.
off the dairy.
Yeah. And I see you've also got what was the new range that you've got with chili, some sort of chili bite with cheese
Chili
in it?
cheese nuggets. Yeah,
That's
so
the one.
it started off to do it for kids, dino nuggets, chili cheese nuggets, but the
Right.
adults have gone nuts for them. They're like, take one of the kids' ones and go, oh my goodness, these are fantastic. And we took a load to a building site. We always go to a building site and take our products. And we think, if we get the guys that just
Get the
grab
builders
crap
to
for
like
lunch,
it.
not all of them, but most of them, if they like them, then everyone will like them. So yeah, we
Yeah.
did tests with people eating a real chicken nugget and then a vegan one, and they basically preferred the vegan one every time, not knowing.
Nice. So
We've also
we,
got a
yeah.
calamari and a king prawn and a new fish finger coming out in 2 months to add to that range. Um, and it's all made in a sustainable factory. And yeah, we're excited about the next level of products. And I've removed a lot of garlic and onions so I can enjoy them myself.
Yeah, very cool. We have a question from Bettina. We're currently trying to set up a digital service to educate kids to be more conscious in their food choice. Do you have any particular advice you might share with us?
Yeah, that's really, really great, because,
Mm,
that's the age that we need to educate with the correct information, but it's also a sensitive age. I think
that's
the
right.
most important thing is, one of the big issues going on with you know, the internet's brilliant, but it's also, I'd rather go back to the 60s and the 70s myself, and not be so accessible, and kids that playing out. And now, as you know, and everybody said it a million times, on the phone. And but the pressure for kids now is, I heard a 14-year-old girl the other day saying, oh no, I'm not going to the party because I don't look good enough. And this is a stunning 14-year-old girl. And she's saying, I'm not quite slim enough, I'm not quite this. And I just thought, we have to be really careful in any education of food, be it vegan or not. But if we can put on a platform what the food actually does for you, and how it gives you nutrition, and then motivate the fact that it is environmental and it is
Mm.
not harming the animals, um, then but also being very conscious about kids, teenagers' pressure, and with eating disorders. That's the sort of fine balance. If those people that wrote in want to have a separate conversation with me, then I can talk to them as well, because it's a great idea. But it's really, really important that the information is spot on, because there's so much misinformation out there. They need to know that this is what happens when you eat an egg. It's cholesterol, it's antibiotic, it's intensively farmed 99% of the time. But you still want to have an egg so you can get sinless egg, vegan eggs. If we're going to have this pork, this is what a pig goes through to make that. But this is the replacement. So we need to make sure they don't go and not understand what they can have instead, and to check it's nutritionally complete. So I think it needs to be real detail, which I'm sure Bettina and her team have that detail on. But it would definitely be covering those three sectors, focusing on mental health and potential issues that could come up because kids are so vulnerable.
Yeah, so Bettina, if you want to get in touch with me, I can put you in touch with Heather. I also became a school speaker recently with Animal Aid, and they do some fantastic work in
Yeah,
schools.
brilliant.
I know you're a keen supporter, and we met there last time at one of their events. And yeah, I've done a few sessions now. It's quite amazing. The education team, by the way, are brilliant, and they will guide you of how you could, what you can and can't say, what you can say to, say, primary kids, to secondary kids, to sixth form kids,
Yeah,
and the topics that you can talk about, how much you can tell them about the animals being slaughtered, or the pictures around that, or not show that, and mainly talk about, for the primary schools, things like animal compassion is the direction they go
yeah.
for, and that they are individuals, etc. So they do
And
some
also,
really
yeah,
great work.
Viva are brilliant like that, because they've
So
got
Aviva,
the experts with Dr. Justine and Butler, and basically all information, scientific information and knowledge on what you can feed a kid. My kid's 21, vegan, whole life. All I had
amazing.
as a kid was from the headmasters and mistresses, oh, your child will die, they will get very ill. And then within a couple of years, why does your child never get a cold? Why is your child never sick? Why is your child this? Why is your child that? And
Yeah,
then, when I bump into them now, they go, God, well, can you believe it? This vegan thing now has gone huge. And I said, it's not this vegan thing. It's literally the thing that needs to help people's health, the animals and the planet. But you need to know we're all individual and we're all unique. And there will be certain foods in any area that irritate some people and don't others. So it's about awareness and listening to your body.
yeah. I think we got a question from something that we spoke about earlier on from Ivor. He would like to know what percentage of food purchased in the UK via a supermarket, and what is the average profit margin do the supermarkets actually add to a product? So I guess,
Yeah, I get
maybe a
it.
branded product versus their own label product, I guess.
They're always looking at a 66% plus
Wow, it's huge.
profit. Yeah, on their margins. Minimum is what they add on to the product in the supermarkets. The alternative store only do around 29 to 32%. And then they have to pay all the stuff, the overheads, utilities, everything from that for it to work. Because the
Mm,
alternative stores don't charge to be sold, whereas supermarkets charge, Amazon charges, Ocado charges. And when people order from the alternative store, we don't charge the small family businesses that go on there. We don't charge any businesses, and
yeah,
especially
that
the
would
really
be like
small ones.
a listing fee, would it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a card to charge X, or you got to pay 5, 6 thousand pounds to get a little banner on there or whatever. So we
Oh,
don't
right.
charge for any of that. And DPD DHL, who deliver the alternative stores, they charge a fee, and that is put on the website. We don't add anything on top of that. So we are making it as minimal as we possibly can. And all of my profits from my vegan businesses go to good causes, animal sanctuaries. I don't take anything myself from those businesses. So, but they need to thrive and survive as businesses so we can keep supplying people. The weakness is that people like Amazon, they're addicted to it, even
Mm,
though it's destroying the planet and a lot of businesses. And they want it there within 30 seconds. Whereas actually, if they just planned what they needed once or twice a week. They could order from the alternative store, who delivers every day, but they can't like get you an Amazon box at midnight that you don't actually need. Um, so if you want to help the family businesses, order on the alternative stores, not Amazon, because all you're doing is giving money to Jeff Bezos to have a huge wedding on a yacht and fly up to the moon when the planet's destroyed on his rocket.
Yeah.
It's not helping you at all. It's actually creating more issues in the country.
Yeah. So let's stay on alternative stores. So it was basically a family-run vegan supermarket that had its own branch and an online store, right? That you
Yeah.
acquired. Was it last year that you acquired it?
Basically, I've known Zara and Dan. They acquired it originally when it was tiny and had it for 10 years. And I bought a factory as a temporary factory because Morrison's wanted us to make their vegan cheese initially until they took it in-house. And then that's why it tastes awful now. And alternative store was at the end of the street. And we couldn't believe it. We're in the middle of an industrial estate in Benton up north. And we're like, where are we going to get something to eat? Because we were just renovating the factory. And then we saw this alternative stores at the end of the street in a warehouse. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So we got to know them. We kept ordering from them all the time. And then they came to the end of their tenancy and needed a temporary place to go. So I bought a bigger factory, the Coty Seton Delaval factory, to put a plant-based hub in there for lots of vegan businesses. And it was just before COVID. So they moved into a part of that. And then COVID happened. And then Boris Johnson contacted us and said, we need to use your factory because we've got a disaster. And I was abroad at the time and said, okay, thinking, it might be 6 months. And then they went in, spread out, and never left. So then the alternative stores moved to the Royal Keys and did a good job there with the shop, but they couldn't expand. And Zara wanted to have a baby, and Dan fell in love with a lady online in America. So they came in and basically, said they wanted to sell it. So I said, okay. And at the time, I saw the supermarkets delisting all the vegan family businesses and making them private label and copying what they were doing. And I thought, they're not going to be very safe. So we need to have a platform that the ethical vegan community and anyone that wants to buy ethical products
Hmm.
can buy from and support these family businesses, because with the new labor costings, the huge uplift on PAYE, national insurance and pensions, it was going to get harder and harder. So that's why I said, okay. And then I realized there was nowhere to expand in the shop. So we moved into the massive factory and then started doing online from there. But then the travelers broke in and ripped off the locks, disabled the cameras, and then the police didn't come for 48 hours. So I got some of my army guys to surround this is because we've got three factories. This is one of the big ones in Peterlee. And they ripped out the copper and the transformers. And then when the police did eventually turn up, they arrested them, charged them, and then released them on bail, which of course they disappeared and then never turned up again. And the copper was found in their caravan, and they said, we now have to prove that the copper in the caravan is the same as the copper that was ripped out your factory. So that's what we've been dealing with for the last few weeks. So we had to move the alternative stores again down into Corby. So yeah, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes of running businesses, trying to do the right thing while loads of criminals just run around and get away with murder. Because it's the second time they've done this. They did it when I bought Plant and Bean in Boston, Lincolnshire. They went in there and ripped out, and the police didn't manage to catch them. But this time the police had 48 hours notice because I said, they're going to go in and rip the copper out. You need to go now. And my security team weren't going to argue with 15 big burly Irish travelers that might have knives. So yeah, it was pretty horrific, and it just ripped the heart out of that factory.
Sorry to hear that. Hopefully you can get that all sorted quickly and they
Yeah,
all
we
get
are.
back on.
Wait, it
Yeah,
hasn't stopped the supply chain because luckily we've got the other factory, but
right.
it's happened to hundreds of factories around the UK. and it's becoming an epidemic. So I've been in and out of Parliament about making laws stricter, and I've said, why are we not getting the army to support the police? If the police are underfunded, why are we not getting the army? Is because I worked in human security in Iraq, Afghanistan in my old life in landmine clearing. So that's the best form of training before you send people out to war, sadly. But no, they're just, again, no common sense. We need to
Mm.
set up the school of common sense.
Yeah, for sure. You spoke a little bit just earlier about, I guess, pensions and things. So I've got a question here from Tim Phillips. What do you think it will take for large institutions, i.e., banks, insurance companies, or even governments, to actively promote plant-based innovations the way they promote green energy? Great question.
Well, insurance companies are actually getting on board because we've been working with them for quite a number of years. Because if you think about it, and this is the only way I managed to change regulations and laws, is I'll go in with an ethical, environmental, trying to help the animals head, but I put my head in their head. Whenever I'm having a negotiation, I get in their head, not mine. So what I want doesn't really matter. Where we end up does, but it's about working out where their heads are. And insurance companies are about money. So if we keep their patients healthy, they don't claim on insurance as much. They don't go in hospital as much. Huge incentives for insurance companies to take on board more plant-based,
Mm,
and it's where their direction's going. But more importantly, um, I've done a whole analysis of the NHS spend and spreadsheet, and you can save at least just on the first dive, um, was 500 million immediately. Now imagine if you take out all the menus of the NHS, you give them a ready meal that's healthy, that creates no diarrhea, no constipation, has no waste, and then they are out of bed 50% quicker. They don't have constipation, they don't have diarrhea that the nurse has to clean up, and they go to a wellness hospital to get well. They're not allowed to stand outside with an oxygen machine that costs a fortune with a cigarette in their mouth. That would be illegal. They're not allowed to have vending machines. That would be illegal. They're not allowed to have chocolates taken in. That is not allowed. And they are there to get well because the taxpayer is paying for them to get well. And a lot of it might have come from their own taxes, but they can go back and do that at home. But what's very interesting, and we've done hundreds of studies on this around the world, is when you put somebody in an environment for 7 to 14 days and you give them a consistent, healthy diet, they moan for the first 2 days. They go a bit more quiet on day 3. By day 4, they are in touch with what it's like to feel good and feel healthy. And by the time they leave, 60% don't go back to their old lifestyle. So that is diminishing the return of the cost to the government, the NHS. You then take that money, and that money goes on junior doctors being paid correctly. So everyone stops talking about bringing in illegal immigrants. The NHS are the biggest culprits for doing that because the government have not funded education to motivate people to actually get qualified and then get paid properly. So they ring up somebody in, I don't know, another country. That person comes because it's a good job. Why wouldn't they? But then all their family come. So it happens a lot in the Northeast. I've got friends that have got houses, they rent them out. It's meant to be for husband and wife, and suddenly there's
mm,
16 other people that have come over. So we create our own problems. So until we fix the situation, when Brexit happened, it was the most stupid thing ever for manufacturing, for growth, for economy, for everything. Um, and only now do my Northeast friends admit we should never have voted for Brexit because we weren't ready for it. If it's a divorce with no paperwork. So had we been ready for it, we would have checked that the British people don't want to clean their grandma or granddad's ass. Do you know what I mean? So, the incredible Polish people are doing all the hard work. So it's about realism. And we've got this idealism where we go, yeah, that's wrong. Da, 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 da. But they don't look past anything else. So anyway, I could waffle on all day, but the solutions are simple, but there has to be hardcore action. All this stroking and pussyfooting around is not going to do anything. That's why we're just
Mm.
going worse and worse and worse into the mire.
Yeah. And I guess linking the ethical side to those bigger institutions, because, look, for example, investors can be ethical investors. And you might, want to find a pension that is an ethical pension, for example, or doesn't want to invest in, say, oil and gas
Yeah,
or
well,
defense,
there's
etc.
two
So same.
there's two things going on there. It's about perception, because the big corporates are greedy and they generally don't care. Very rarely you'll get a founder that manages to make a big corporate that might care, but it's all about money. So if you fix the money issue and you show them that there's an EBITDA, proper margin and growth, then you get in the common sense solution. So you have to do it that way around. They're never going to do it just because it's better for us or more ethical. So for example, the vegan egg. We've been making vegan eggs since the 90s, liquid egg, this, that. More
Mm,
recently, with sinless egg, we've made a bigger variety of poached and boiled and all that kind of stuff. But now we're doing wholesale eggs. So we send that, it's allergen free, pumpkin protein, rice flour. The reason companies like, let's say Greencore, they make 270 million egg sandwiches. That's how mad the British are. That's how many egg sandwiches we eat just from that one company. If they use clean VBites eggs wholesale, then you can put it into the sandwich. It cuts the cholesterol in half, it cuts the antibiotic in half, and it's the first product that's less expensive than a real egg, even though real
mm,
eggs are subsidized. And why we have all the cholesterol issues and antibiotic issues on top of meat that we have. Now, that's the first time something can infiltrate into the flexitarian arena and help cut down the issues that's cost effective. So you can only create a solution for something if your solution is cost effective and it tastes great and it creates the solution. Opinions can go on all day, but you sit down and think, how do I fix it? And that's what so many of these vegan entrepreneurial businesses are doing. They're trying to create something to stop you giving your kid Ribena and a Milky Bar for breakfast, and creating obesity. you know
yeah.
that the, and they're saying it's the money, and actually you add up the cost of a Milky Bar and a Ribena, it's the convenience, because they're stressed because they've got 4 kids and they're running to school, and that's what we have to solve. How do we make things cost effective, healthier, tasting yummy, for the end consumer?
Yep.
And that's the
Um,
same with the corporates. And when you do it for them, they can do it on mass volume. It's why I created the first vegan McDonald's burger in the early 2003s, was to show them they can have a piece of the vegan pie because they're a big brand. Sadly, they did it, and then eventually, and then, because they're not making billions from it, they start reducing the offerings. Like in Austria, I think they've even stopped offering the plant-based burger, which is, so it's about the consumer has to make that choice every time they go in to
mm,
choose the plant-based alternate, and things will shift.
yeah, for sure. On the product side, a question from Carla. Can you briefly explain the process of when you develop a new product?
When it comes in my head, or if a company comes to us and says, we need, I had a TV show in Italy called My Planet Vegan that ran for years ago, and I teach Michelin chefs how to replicate their menus.
Oh, nice.
At the time, they'd never understood any of that. So I would say, why are you making a vegetarian soup? Let's just eliminate these things. And then
Mm,
it's a non-vegetarian, a carnivore, a vegan, it's an everybody soup. So let's do this as much as possible. So I had to create a vegan cheese souffle. And that was really interesting. So to make the souffle rise, you can use an olive oil and water mix, because when it heats, it becomes like a chemical explosion. And then a certain type of cheese so that it would have the stretch, but it would be light enough to not affect the consistency of the souffle. So yeah, I get into the kitchen and it becomes a scientific experiment. And then I start to make it as clean and as healthy as possible. without losing quality and taste. Because most of the Michelin chefs, it's hysterical. You watch it, like on MasterChef, which I love to watch because I go, oh, I could use that instead of that. I could use that instead of that. And they just go, oh, let's do 5 pounds of sugar, now 3 kilos of butter, and let's chuck in half a carcass. Oh, I wonder why I've got a big fat belly and I don't feel very well. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I wonder
Yeah.
why it tastes great to those taste buds. And they're called chefs. And it's like, no, really excellent cooking is about creating things that are helping people's health, the animals, and the planet. And that's the challenge. And that's why now you see certain Michelin chefs have made their restaurants 100% vegan because
That's
they're
right.
so genius at making things look beautiful and then
Yeah.
tasting amazing.
Like Alexis Grunther's restaurants are
Yes.
amazing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
His vegan sushi, which is
Imagine having
pretty.
him in your house just cooking
I
for you
know.
every day. What a
That'd
dream
be
would that
awesome.
be? Yeah.
Yeah. Or even a breakfast would be great, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We have a question from Krishna. How do you source funding for your different activities? Is it hard to get aligned funding? And now, in a place of sort of scalable, clean funding, how do you get the growth from that?
Well, funding now is harder than ever because the whole Beyond Meat thing, which was our old
Mm,
recipe for the 90s, didn't listen and literally be ready for the pushback because we had VBites. We were just exclusive for 27 years in Holland and Barrett with 84 products. And we just grew slowly. So I funded it initially because I'd had a number of businesses before, but I'll go back to that. And then we just grew and kept reinvesting. So we grew slowly and we could grow slowly because there was no competition because no one else was doing it. But now there's so much competition. One, you need something that's really unique. Two, you need to really have worked in a similar business. You need to have worked in a factory. You need to have worked in every single area before you ever do a business because it'll fail,
mm,
sadly. And when you take investment, which I've only done once, and it was horrific because it was a big corporate and they thought they knew everything. And I thought I can take a business to multi-millions, but I never took a business to billions. And in the time when Beyond Meat happened and Corn sold for 330 million to Exponent. Exponent put 5-7 million in marketing, sold it to Mondinis and Henry C. Santo, who's a vegan, 550 million. The city went, hang on a second. So that was the first. Oh, and then Daya Cheese sold to the Japanese for 330 million. This is like 8, 9, 10 years ago. Then they sat up even more. And then when Beyond Meat happened, all the corporates were all over it and chucking
that's
tens of
right.
millions at everything to people who just had a good idea and were techies. They weren't food manufacturers. They didn't know how to scale a business, and it was just chucked at it. So I thought I'll take this investment on, which I did a few years ago, and they bought 25% and put the money in, but they took it backwards. So I'd say if you can grow your business slowly and you can get funding from the people around you that can afford to lose the money if you fail, don't ever borrow money from anyone that can't afford to lose it. And it's also, I literally sold everything to make my businesses happen. So I put all my money in. I was happy to live in a camper van. I sold my house. I literally had a kid that didn't care if they wore charity clothes. So we were just like, let's just take the risk and it'll work or it won't work. And what's the worst thing that can happen? I can go and teach skiing in the day, stack some shelves at night, and live in the camper van. But a lot of people don't have lives like that. A lot of people are
Mm.
clinging to superficial things. So I'm very successful, but my family get to enjoy it. I don't get to enjoy most of it or get much time off, thus not having had a holiday this summer, looking after the factory. So investment, really, really difficult, has to be something amazing. And the one thing you have to do is let go of the belief that there's a huge value to your business as a startup because there's not. You have to be prepared to dilute and dilute and dilute because of it's other people's money, or grow slowly and keep control of it. because the banks won't loan you any money. You'll get some grants to do like a 50, 100 grand potentially, which is a crazy thing because all that does is get your foot in the water and then you're stuck because you get to a point, you suddenly get an order from Tesco's and you're like, oh God, we need so much more money to scale and grow and da da da. And then that's it, you're in. So I've always said, and this is what I tried to do with Peter Lee until it was ripped apart recently. I wanted to put about 100 different vegan manufacturing businesses in there because they're generally in the meat, fish, and dairy sector. They use the same machines. So they don't have enough volume to get a factory or justify that investment. So let's just run them on shifts. Let's basically say, okay, you're now Tuesday morning from 7 to 1. You're going to go and run your vegan sausages. And then that's your freezer over there. You're going to do that means you get mass procurement, you minimize your overheads. And that was the plan for all of that. But the travel is nip that in the bud, but we'll see where we're going from here. But depends on your idea, but it is really, really hard to get investment. So I used all my money that I was a millionaire by the time I was 19, and then got married, made a load of money together, got divorced, gave all that away. And because I fund hundreds of charities and landmine clearing and stuff like that. So my business is run so that we can keep helping these people and doing these things.
What's your advice when there's challenges? Obviously, VBites has had sort of recent challenges, but came out good on the other side after it was brought back by yourself. What advice would you give to people who are facing challenges in this sector?
A bit like what I did with the landmine situation. Now, hopefully, everybody realizes most people don't have any IP. They think they do. They might change a flavor. They might do this. They might do that. I've only seen one person come to me in 30 years with anything that we haven't already done in the food vegan sector.
Mm.
So what I would suggest is do your research and group together with more and more companies of like-minded things. It would be better to have a group of people who were working together like the meat and dairy industry do, and that's a powerful tool. Share a factory, share machinery, look at what someone's doing. If you know someone that's only using quarter of their factory, ask to rent the other quarter. Keep your overheads minimal. Make sure you've got enough money that you never take a wage for 3 years, literally, and you've got more chance of it working. And that's really, really, really hard. You have to live on the breadline. It's all very negative, but I would highly suggest working for a similar business, knowing it inside out before you ever go off and set up a business. That's techie stuff is easy because there's very little to lose. But manufacturing is the number one most difficult thing. And I say that more than restaurants because I've run restaurants and they were hard enough. But
Mm.
it's very, very difficult. And in Britain at the moment, labor's more expensive than ever. The costs went up, which they should. But if you're someone that works for a company and you're getting like, I don't know, 3 grand a month as a production person, the company has to pay another £1,500 on all add-ons that you never see. So technically you're costing them £4,500. Now you're costing them even more because the government have put that up even more. So poor family businesses, let's say they had a vegan fish and chip shop and they've ran it for 20 years, they've never had a day off, and they finally are making a profit because vegans becoming more popular. They hire Jake and Sally to give them a day off. Now they've had to let Jake and Sally go because of these increases. So they're back to working their backsides off to just live. And this is why more and more people are going on benefits because they're like, what's the point? All I'm doing is living hand to mouth all the time. So, yeah, you have to be willing to do that and take huge risks and work out what's the worst case scenario you'd live in. And I know mine. And I've been in every scenario. I was homeless on the street as a kid and all sorts of things. So I know what I'm willing to risk and do to try and make a difference. And I've proven that for over 30 years.
Yeah. And you've also made a difference in terms of the makeup side of things with your brand, Be At One. What gaps did you see that you wanted to fill with that brand?
Well, I've always had a bucket list of, well, I would go vegan, but, and that's all I ever heard. I'd go vegan, but I couldn't. I'll go vegan, but. So I thought, let's create a solution for every single thing from meat to fish to dairy to clothing to shoes to makeup and to creams and to cleansers and to all this kind of stuff like deodorants. Everybody's like shoving aluminium in their armpits and wondering why they're getting breast cancer. It's like my
Mm.
mum told me I'd get breast cancer from aluminium or have a high chance of it in deodorant when I was 10. And I'm like, why are these horrific ingredients allowed in products?
Yeah. Can we touch on that? Because I think, I was told by a friend of mine who actually had breast cancer that she also heard that argument of the deodorant and also when you're spraying under your armpit, that you're generally might have it with your right hand. And if you're right-handed, you're stronger and you spray more on your right than your left. And therefore, you're more likely to get breast cancer on your right breast. I
It's
don't
a
know if
good
it's
it's a
true, but
good
it could be.
analogy, but obviously if you're putting more aluminium on one side than you are the other, anyone that wants the best, if you're female, Dr. Hauschka Rose cream smells great and is efficient and is vegan. On the alternative store, we've got like 25 aluminium free deodorants that are brilliant. But people just see this advertising on TV and they don't actually know what the ingredients are inside of it. And our
Mm.
government allows those things to go into our products, just like they allow you to get injected with a load of crap. Do you know what I mean? So don't think that your doctor knows everything. They get 2 hours worth of nutrition. They're not dietitians, they're not experts in food. They have to learn a million things. It's one of the hardest jobs, but they don't know everything, and there will be loads of misdiagnosis. So read the ingredients and look what's in there. That's the most important thing. But back to the question that you said before, what was it? Because we jumped onto
It was more
aluminium.
about the cruelty-free makeup and what gaps you
Yeah, the
saw.
makeup.
Yeah,
So the reason that happened, because there was a bucket list, was
yeah.
I was thinking, okay, now we've got people understanding what they're eating and what it does to them. Why don't we now make them think that when they put something on their body, it goes through the skin subcutaneously into the bloodstream and affects what's going on inside? So when you wear lipstick, and if you kiss a girl with lipstick, 99% of the time, it will have carmine in. Carmine is crushed insects, beetles.
For
So
the
every
red
time a
color.
guy's kissing a girl, he's swallowing all this crushed insects, which you can actually see in the bloodstream, how it goes in the bloodstream. So if you're going to wear lipstick, you want something that's clean, that's not going to create all those issues and be full of animals. And a huge percentage of makeup in the UK is full of animal. Crushed insects, I give as an example because it's pretty gross, just imagining loads of little beetles running in your mouth. Um, and so lots of vegans had made makeup, but the quality was really bad because they made it with good intentions, but it cost a lot of money to make very high quality makeup and a lot of R&D. So I decided to invest and do that. And I had a friend who was a makeup artist who knew how to make makeup. So I taught her how to do it vegan. And then we created Be At One, and it's BB cream with SPF 30 in it. And the mascara doesn't make your eyes water. Chanel tried to private label the mascara. We said no, because it'll be expensive. So the level of our products are like Tom Ford Chanel, but they're at a Maybelline price with no animal cruelty and very high quality. And so we sell them on the alternative stores. So it gives a solution.
Yeah, what was it you said about the mascara? That it doesn't make
The
your eyes water.
mascara, it doesn't leak. So in the Middle East, I did a speech on the QE2 years ago, and I was looking at all the beautiful women and they had all the black eyeliner and the mascara.
Mm.
And I thought, I wonder what brand they wear. So when I
All right.
chatted to them afterwards, they were telling me the brands, and I was like, oh my God. I said, forget vegan, it's against your religion. You've got pig in your makeup, which is against your religion. They were like, what? Oh my God, we didn't know we had pigs. So we put Be At One into what's that massive hotel called in Dubai? It's gone off.
Burj Arab,
Not the
or
Burj Al Arab, the other one, the Atlantis,
oh
the
yeah.
Atlantis. So we put it in there because it had 3,000 people walking through every day, and they absolutely loved it. And people who have really get irritated by mascara because most of the mascara they're buying is very chemical. No one
Mm.
gets any problem with our mascara. So yeah, really proud of the Be It One makeup. When we launched it all into Europe, into the Muller stores, just as COVID happened, when everyone stopped wearing makeup
Oh
and when
yeah, yeah.
divorces increased, I kept mine on. So yeah, that's Be It One. It's another problem solving for people who don't want to wear animals on their face.
Yeah, that's great. And if you look at the bigger beauty brands, like say Elf Beauty, that I think is all vegan as well, what would you say the difference between these bigger, larger makeup brands and your products are?
I just think, well, they're a lot cheaper, a lot less expensive, and any vegan brand is absolutely fantastic. We just wanted to make it cost efficient, high quality, and you should just try them yourself and see the difference. Ours is clean and it's got SPF and the lipstick you can double up as a blusher. We don't create more cost by saying, oh, you must wear this for your blush and this for your lip. You just can use the same thing. You got a pink lip, you put a little pink blush, you got a pink with the same item.
Oh, I see,
So
right.
we've created it so that it's
Like
halving your
a two for one.
2 for 1. Yeah, you can use it on
Yeah.
your cheeks and your lips, and you can put it on your eyes. We do a basic eyeshadow set because tends to be the most popular colors are certain colors.
Yeah.
But
And all these products are available on alternative stores now as well.
yeah, or beat1.com, and then it links to alternative store because we're trying to make things as simple as possible for people. We also do an algal oil. Like most people are depleted in omega-3 and they think, omega-3 comes from fish, and of course it doesn't, especially now with all the fish farming in this country. They're trying to buy my oil to feed it to the fish. I'm just like, oh my God, that's totally mad. So V
Mm,
omega-3 is a high DHA, EPA, DHA being docosahexaenoic acid, EPA, icosapentaenoic acid. This country is advancing in Alzheimer's and all sorts of mental health issues because there's no omega-3 in the diet. They're not, some people are not able to convert an ALA to an EPA DHA from flaxseed and linseed. Most people are, but a small percentage aren't. But omega-3 from algal oil is immediately done the conversion for you naturally. So B12 and omega-3, they're the only two things I take every day. I don't take any other vitamins at all.
yeah. I hear so many different things, especially when it comes to Alzheimer's and dementia, like as
Mm.
in the causes of it. And, where some people are saying, yeah, it's to do with, the plaque being in the small blood vessels. And then I was hearing even today that it's got to do with glucose or insulin levels,
They're
as
all
well.
connected.
It's
They're
all
all
connected.
connected. It's not one or the other. It is a flow of a connection. And where you have certain weaknesses in your system. The other thing I wanted to say is this Ozempic nightmare disaster is horrific. So I work a lot in the diabetic section because the large majority of people that are amputees are from diabetes. So I've studied
Right.
diabetes for literally 30 years.
Yeah.
And Ozempic is brilliant if you have severe diabetic problems or you're so morbidly obese that they
Right.
need to get you started on it. But nobody should touch Ozempic if they're not connected ever to diabetes because it's playing with the pancreas, it's playing with the adrenal glands. And you're going to see, a bit like what I said about the COVID vaccine when everyone said I was nuts, don't go near it. And I'll still stand by that. You're going to see this Ozempic is going to become like OxyContin. It's going to be addictive, horrific, and only works for the time that you're on it. And it's terrible. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
why we got to change the way people eat with things like no bloat, not pumping yourself with a quick fix pill that's actually going to harm you internally. And people have to get in touch with what's going on inside, not what's going on outside, because you can look great, but eventually it'll catch up with you. And when you get a sudden announcement of a life-threatening illness or disease, you're going to go, oh my God, what an idiot I was to play around for some superficial reason because I couldn't lose some weight. There are ways of losing weight that, you can do with health, food, and exercises. Some people are unlucky with thyroid issues. There's things around that, but this Ozempic thing is only good if you've got diabetes or you're morbidly obese.
And
I know people that
morbidly,
are 2 pounds overweight that are on it, and I just
yeah.
does my head in.
And also, like, I think from the NHS would only give you if you've got like two major symptoms. I think diabetes is one, but also a BMI of over 30, for example, if you were going
Yeah,
to
but
get it
it
off.
should only be
But
for a
that's not,
period, and you need to educate that person that they're not going to get it unless when they get to that point, they start living their life like this, unless they're
mm,
morbidly obese through no fault of their own. But that's only a
mm,
small percentage of people. The rest is absolutely down to oneself, the higher percentage. It's a fact.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I've got a
Um,
friend, I went up to the factory and I'm 57 and I driving down the street and I look out and I see this girl literally on one of those scooters who was 2 years younger than me at school, who's got three kids and is just morbidly obese. And I talked to her and she said, I just can't be bothered. So I just eat and don't work and claim benefits and pop down the shop. And that is so unfair, and why we've got this benefit problem for the people with disabilities that really, really need it, because there's people that are just literally milking it and have given up and might need some mental health support to get them out of this way of living. But this
mm,
girl was like gorgeous and fun and one of the best girls on theatre. And this is what's happened with her life. And it
mm,
has to be changed. And people who have no willpower need to be put in an environment, a bit like the NHS could become like the Priory, and they need to go in, be fixed, mentally educated as much as they can, come out the other end. Otherwise, they're in, out, in, out, in, out. And they need some hardcore action. And where better than in the hospital to say, actually, you don't really need to eat for the next 3 or 4 days. We can just put you on juices. But
yeah.
everyone's afraid. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Well, I'm afraid that's not me. The
What
truth
do
is the
you,
truth.
yeah, a question from Sangeeta. What do you think about HRT, hormone
Well,
replacement therapy?
so
Yeah.
basically, every single person is unique. And when I went through perimenopause, I still have my period and I'm 57 years old, but I'm going through the perimenopause. So I get the hot sweats, I get days where I feel really tired. I think if you're unable to fix it through nutrition and diet and health, and you're feeling suicidal, which is often misdiagnosed as depression, but it's hormonal, I think the NHS should do standard hormone, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone tests immediately for anyone over the age of 38 plus, because it can start young, as it did with a friend of mine who went from being the happiest person in the world to severely depressed. They shoved loads of Prozac on her and it didn't make any difference, and it was hormones. So there are different types of hormone replaced therapies, and bioidentical ones I would say would be the best.
Mm,
And you should get a hormone test every 6 months, including men, because men go through the menopause and it's often ignored, and men's testosterone can go out the door, and it affects your whole life. People can end up getting divorced thinking, my wife or my husband's got miserable and is not the same person. Hormones literally should be top of the list. And I thought that the panorama that they did on Dr. Louise Newson was disgusting, because she is so amazing and has helped thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And to put out the way that they did was absolutely irresponsible. I used to work years ago at the BBC when Panorama was a great show. And I just find it's become so tabloidy and full of misinformation. So, yeah, you need to work out what's right for you. Um, when you're feeling that bad. But if you can work through it, brilliant. If you're just getting a few hot flushes, just walk around in your bikini. My friend, I wish I'd had it when I was ski racing at the normal age, when I was 47 and I did the world record, because then I could have just not worn 20 outfits because it was minus 30 degrees. But no, I'm only just going through it now. So yeah, there are different methods for HRT, and you need to speak to someone like Dr. Louise Newson. Just go on for free and look at her hours information. And then there are yams. I mean, I use yam cream. There are lots of alternates you can use, but you need to work it out. I'm
how
not an
does that,
expert in HRT
how does a yam cream help?
because it's got lots of estrogen in it
Oh, I see.
naturally.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So they used to give you loads of soy tablets, and then everybody went,
Right.
"Oh, soy gives men man boobs." No, it doesn't. It normalizes the estrogen. So a lot of vegans don't suffer as much that have a high soy content um,
Mm.
in their diet if you're good with soy, because it is an allergy still.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, there's lots of different options.
Yeah. A question from Pete going back to gut health was how did you find out what irritates your gut? I think you touched
Oh.
on it a little bit before, but yeah.
Yeah, so I kept being misdiagnosed. They took out my appendix when it burst. I was lucky to be alive. They took out my gallbladder, but I still kept having problems. And I was like, because the the appendix was putrefied, like a bit like those calzone pizzas. It was pretty gross. And
Oh.
that had been leaking for 2 years. So it obviously damaged all the microbiome. Now I have a very long, tortuous colon, which is twisty and turny and problematic. So if you are not having enough fluid and not necessarily too much fiber, because for me, the wrong kind of fiber is actually blocked me up. So there's fiber and there's fiber. So you got to work out who
Mm.
you are. But the best thing to do for me was I went first to the Harley Street Dysfunctional Gut Clinic, who I've worked with for years now. They did manometries because I had severe acid reflux, but it wasn't painful. And they checked for SIBO. I didn't have SIBO. They checked for H. pylori. I didn't have that. And we were just like, what is this? I did camera tests to work out what was going on and how slow the peristaltic movement was through the colon. So at first I did all these tests, but ultimately I didn't have any of those things. It was literally by elimination. And I learned about FODMAP, and I learned there was a lot of misinformation about that. And so over the last 13 years, I've studied which FODMAPs irritate me and which don't. And that's what I'm going to explain on the website with No Bloat, because it's going to change millions of people's lives with the misinformation that's out there. Because we're all told just eat all the vegetables, all the fruits, all the everything. And 100% if you don't have issues. But if you get bloating and distension and acid reflux and diarrhea and constipation and you're just feeling awful, and I was for years while I had to ski race, then it first thing you should do is cut out garlic and onion. See if that makes any difference. If that doesn't work, cut out mannitols. Just Google what mannitols are. If that doesn't work, cut out sorbitols. Start always with cutting out lactose because that's a massive intolerant
Mm.
and it's horrific for you anyway, whereas mannitars aren't until they are. Stick to oyster mushrooms if mushrooms are bothering you. They generally don't bother anybody. Um, and then it's about percentages. So if you imagine, when you get a pot hummus as a vegan and you go, oh, fantastic, and you've got your celery or your carrot or whatever you're going away. And some weeks you feel fine and other weeks you don't. Well, because some weeks you ate that whole pot of garlic in that
Quantity wise.
hummus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and also what happens is, and what we've done with the no bloat is basically percentages. So there's a specific percentage of a chickpea. There's a specific percentage of everything so that it stays under the radar to not affect your colon, even if you ate 3 of them a day and you had no movement in your colon, which trust me, you will over time get regular proper poos. It's quite exciting. And
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says, seeing a good poo is a fabulous thing. And so when it moves through the colon regularly, then it's exited. But if you have that hummus on Monday and actually you haven't been to the loo, then you have it again on Tuesday, suddenly you're getting cramping and fermentation because it hasn't exited. So you've doubled your load. So constant bowel movements are really, really important for IBS and GERD and everything. And then you've got obviously the severe ones like Crohn's and celiac disease, which are really, really awful. But low FODMAP can greatly help those things. And also testing wheat. I thought for years I was gluten intolerant, and I wasn't. I was gliadin, which is what's in the wheat. So I went on gluten-free bread, but a lot of gluten-free bread they put in apple, and apple is something that's a high FODMAP. So I
Yeah.
was like, why is this not working? So it took 13 years. And finally, I've come up with a system that makes you know in 6 weeks what you can eat, what affects you. And as long as you stick to that, you won't get any bloating or
Yeah.
gas or issues going forward. But that takes willpower. You know, I can't sit there and follow you around. Um, Luckily, the odd glass of wine doesn't give you any bloating and FODMAP, but it gives you acid reflux if you've got
Mm.
issues, and it gives you other things. So um, that's a different issue. But agony, pain, that can be fixed on the low FODMAP way of eating, the right low FODMAP way of eating.
Yeah. A lot of the gluten-free bread also has egg in it, doesn't it? I don't know why they put egg in it.
Some of it you can still get loads without, but for me, it's
Yeah.
it's it's if it's got the apple in it, and
Right.
I tend to just make my own now, and it lasts
Very good.
for. I chop it up, and then it lasts me for a month. Just keep it in the freezer and shove it in the toaster.
Yeah. Question from Tony. Great interview. From listening to you, it seems that changing hearts and minds globally and forcing industrial processes to adapt is vital to getting your products to consumers. How challenging is the side of things, and how do you marry this sort of background activism with being a business leader that just wants to produce and sell good food?
Covered a bit of that earlier, but
Yeah,
thanks, Tony, for that question. You might have joined recently, but again, it's realism versus idealism. I was an idealistic 20-odd-year-old that healed myself from vegan and thought, I've got the answer for the world. We've got to do this like every newborn activist. And then I was a manufacturer. And then I went, I didn't want to use plastic. So I was like, let's do plastic free. Then you ship a container over to Australia and everything's melted because they've got caught in a harbor, and all the cardboard is disintegrated, and then you lose the customer and your business goes under. So then you're like, am I trying to be vegan, or am I trying to be a no plastic person? Am I trying to be this? So you start off with all these ideals, and then only when you get into manufacturing do you see the issues. It's a bit like farming. I went in to study that because I wanted to really work out, how can I create something where farmers get a margin and an EBITDA because they struggle all the time and they stop harming animals. How do I do that? So it's always thinking about, you want animal cruelty to stop, you want health to improve, you want to save the planet. How do you do that and still put pennies and hopefully pounds into the pockets of the people who can influence that change? So I did it with McDonald's because they had the big brand. I did it with Burger King. I did it with Domino's. And I said, that's going to have the biggest influence. I started myself by just trying to do it myself in the VBites Cafe in Brighton. And I thought, well, this is great for Brighton, but it's not changing the world. My knowledge and everything that we built up in our team in VBites is so expansive that if we can influence the big corporates to use our technology instead of spend millions creating crap products, then it will be made on volume and become cost effective, and it will convert more and more and more people. So
yeah.
it's sort out the financials because that's all they care about, and create the solution so that volume can increase and that they're not afraid of us. Then they're getting a piece of the vegan pie, like the vegan egg, like everything else that we've
Mm.
been doing.
Yep. And what do you see as the biggest opportunities now, I guess, in the plant-based food sector, in the beauty and lifestyle market as well over the next 5 years?
Well, in the food sector, it's definitely this. And I know it keep
Mm.
flashing it at you, but it is going to change lives because the word process is being dumped on veganism. Everyone who reads a tabloid basically goes, oh, it's processed, while they pick up their chopped up lettuce or whatever. Like, everything's processed, everything goes through a process, but they don't understand what process means. So if they say, oh, it's got this ingredient on it, they don't know that they've just gone and got, I might as well get a bacon butty. No, there's a massive comparison. One is much more unhealthy, and harms the environment and the planet, and the other doesn't. So it's about educating people. And while we're trying to educate them over here, I believe in spinning plates. So people need to lose weight, no bloat, is 187 calories to 207, nutritionally complete. That is phenomenal to turn around obesity. It's gut healthy, it's clean, it doesn't harm the environment, the animals, and no one can just chuck the word processed on it. So it creates a U-turn. So people are talking about no bloat. They're going, oh my God, this tastes amazing. And it's convenient. I can have it on a plane, the top of Mount Everest, a train, and it's good for my gut. So that's basically
Nice.
what's going to turn things around. And then people are suddenly vegan eating, and that's done a U-turn.
Yeah, very good. So, yeah, thank you so much, Heather, for coming on the show. It's been great. I wish you all the best of luck with VBites, the
Thank you for having
alternative
me.
stores, be at one, and also really want to see these products come to market with no bloat as well. So, yeah, thank you for taking the time
Great.
and being so kind in answering all those questions as well.
No problem. Lovely to speak to you.
All right, you take care and see you again
All the
soon.
best.
All the
Bye.
best. Bye bye.